Hey everybody, I'm Tasha with the Major Change Group, and today we're going to be talking about, is the credit card game worth it? Let me know in the comments, what do you think? Now, you already know Dave Ramsey, he's going to say no, especially chasing those credit card points, cash back, and things like that. But for sure, if we are paying interest on credit cards, most likely it's not going to be worth it. But we're going to get into it. So I ask you, is the credit card game worth it? And 83% said yes, and 17% said no. And I got some really good comments about this too. The first comment says, if you pay in full every month and never pay interest, then it's definitely going to be worth it. But it says, let the record show millions of people cannot do this. Only a select few are winning the game. And I was just like, man, I hear you. I do think that's true, but it's just like, why? You know what I'm saying? Why does it only have to be a select few that can do this? And then another person said, you can never outsmart the credit card companies. But I was just like, you know what? I think that you can. Because, see, the main thing, especially even when you take a look at this first comment, it says if you pay your credit card in full and never pay interest, then I do believe that you can beat the credit card companies at their own game. Now, I do think that that is a very good comment stating that most Americans are going to be having a lot of credit card debt and they can't do this, because in my last video, I was saying, we are actually in $1.4 trillion in credit card debt. And you can see here on this graph that is stating that really credit card debt is ranging between $3,000 and $10,000, with Gen X having the most debt with $9,123. And so this is not even including student loan debt, housing debt, car debt, because car debt is really on the rise. But when we think about credit card debt, I feel credit card debt is something that we can all control. I know inflation and things are going on where stuff is more expensive, but on the same hand, how can we make sure that we're not overspending and things like that, so that we don't have to have a lot of credit card debt? And one way that we can do that is through budgeting, because budgeting is going to help us to where, one, we know how much money we have coming in compared to going out, but then also making sure that we're allocating the funds correctly. And I like to use my credit cards like a debit card. So first, what I'm going to do, I'm going to do my budget. But then after I do my budget, and let's say when I'm paying on my bills and things like that, I'm going to use my credit card pretty much for everything. Then I'm going to pay the credit card off every month. And so that's what we really want to do. But the thing is, how intentional are we with making sure that we understand how much money we're spending every month? Now, you'll have to let me know in the comments, when you are using your credit card like a debit card, do you have debt on your credit cards? When you take a look at that graph, and let's say millennials, they have debt as well, but it's not as much as the Gen X. And I did a poll on my community tab asking, how much debt do you have? And here, most people had no credit card debt, which is good at 32%. But then the next highest was going to be more than $10,000 in credit card debt, because this was only asking about credit card debt. This is not including any of the other debt. And so that's where I'm saying that with credit cards, we have to be very intentional how we're spending our money. And so that's why I think doing a budget first is going to be good, and possibly not consuming as much, only if it is for a short amount of time. And so, on this channel, we definitely like to do budgeting. And, I do my budget every month and making sure that I'm, paying all the bills for one, and then that I'm not paying interest. But I know for myself, I definitely have paid interest on credit cards. But for the last 6 or 7 years, maybe even a little bit more, I haven't been paying interest. But I definitely say that when I did the Dave Ramsey baby steps, that really helped me to where I could get into a place to where I understood and I had discipline in my finances. And I really think that if I never did the Dave Ramsey, I don't know that I would be here, because I was pretty much like, okay, I'm going to use my credit card for everything. But the credit card, I'm going to use my money for whatever I want, and I'm going to use the credit card how I want. And then I would just pay the credit card down. Or sometimes I would even pay just the minimum balance, and I wouldn't pay the credit card off every month, especially when I was in college and things like that. But then after I did Dave Ramsey and I had cut up all my credit cards, and it was a pretty, I can't remember, but maybe like a year or two that I wasn't using my credit cards. So it got me into a pretty good discipline, to where after I had did that for a while, and then, I would try to use cash, and then I tried to use my debit card, because I feel like whenever, let's say if I'm listening to Dave Ramsey or somebody else, I'm going to listen to what they're saying, but it's like, how can I really fit it into my lifestyle? And so I was just like, you know what, me carrying cash, it just really wasn't going to work. And then I was trying to do my debit card. And so then I was doing it with my debit card. But then I was like, you know what? I'm going to do credit cards. And so then that's how I did it. I just started using my credit card, and then I started paying it off every month. And then so like now I don't pay interest on credit cards. I just pay the credit card off every month. And see, at first, whenever I made a purchase, I would pay the credit card off. But then after that, I just started paying it off, every month, maybe like twice a month. So I do think that we can win with credit cards, but first we have to tackle our finances so that we're not overspending. But I do think one way that possibly we cannot win with credit cards, but it really depends, is with the annual fees. Because it's just like, on the one hand, if you have all these annual fees, but you don't even have that money in a savings account, that's not good. Now, I will say for myself, I am one that prefers a credit card that doesn't have an annual fee or a low annual fee, but I have gotten into credit cards that have annual fees. And I would not say that it's bad, but especially, let's say for myself, I have 14 credit cards, but also I did a poll on my community tab asking how many credit cards that you have. And I want to say the highest was over 5 credit cards. So let me know in the comments, how many credit cards do you have, and how many annual fees do you have? And I did a video earlier this year. I want to say that I have about over 500, I want to say $513 in annual fees. And I'm like, ooh, that's kind of a lot. So, I do feel like possibly with having high annual fees, that could be a loss, but only if you're not maximizing that credit card. So if you're maximizing the credit card, let's say like Sledge, y'all have to check out his channel, then I feel like it's a win-win. So one, we have to make sure that our budget is good and we're not overspending and not paying interest. But then two, make sure that we can afford the annual fees and the credit card fits in our natural spending and our lifestyle, so that we can use a credit card appropriately, so that we're not wasting an annual fee. But I say, on the one hand, because in one of my videos, somebody did say, well, if you wasn't trying to apply for all these credit cards all the time. But I'm just like, on the one hand, is it a right way or wrong way to apply for credit cards? How I feel. So I don't think so, because whatever your lifestyle is, and if you want to apply for credit cards, you do that, but you have to make sure that you know what you're getting into. So I don't judge people for not having credit cards or one credit card, but I don't think you should judge people for having a lot of credit cards. But then also, we have to make sure that we are using the credit cards appropriately. So I feel like if you're not paying interest on the credit cards, then you're good. Because if you're paying interest on credit cards and you're getting the perks, then you're only breaking even and you're not really winning, to me. So to win this credit card game, one, we have to have a budget, not overspend, not pay interest on credit cards, and make sure that we can balance our annual fees to where, let's say, we're using that credit card appropriately, so that it's not going to waste. So let me know in the comments, how do you feel about the credit card game. Do you think that we can win the credit card game? And how can more people win at this credit card game? So that's what we're going to be talking about a little bit more, because, I am always talking about credit cards, but we do have to make sure that we're using credit cards appropriately, especially in my opinion, and not pay interest on credit cards and rack up a whole lot of credit card debt. So I hope that you found this video helpful. Please like, subscribe, share with a friend, and turn on your notification bell so you'll be notified when new content drops. I thank you so much for watching. Until next time. It's not a game.